Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Author. Today, I have Pippa Grant with me. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you are here. So, I usually like to always start off these Meet the Author interviews with just an easy icebreaker question. So, I have to ask you, do you feel like you are more of a dog or a cat person?
Oh, that's so hard because I like dogs, but I've only had cats as an adult. So I'm a cat person. My geriatric cat sleeps with me most nights.
But you still like dogs.
I do. I do. I still like dogs.
I had to pull it out. I have it right here with me, but you're
Yeah.
doing there's a
What?
dog on the cover. So
Yes.
I wanted to
Yes.
ask this question because I
Yeah.
was like, all right, we have a dog on the cover. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like she's a dog person, but that kind of
Yeah.
shocked me. But
Yeah. No, so my husband spent 20 years in the military. Well, the whole family did, right? We were married before he joined the military. And we just never felt we were gone so
mm,
much and we moved so often. We just didn't feel like it was fair to an animal, to a dog specifically to do that. So we had two cats for a long time and they kept each other company whenever we'd travel. And now one has since left us and the other one is hanging in there and ruling the roost.
I feel like cats are a lot easier that you can just, kind of leave them and
Yeah.
do the thing and then come back and they're just like, oh, hey, good to
Yeah.
see you. All right.
Yeah, and my entire family wants a dog, but we're like, okay, the cat is 17 years old and she's not in good health. Let's not terrorize her. So
I can understand how that's probably not.
I can see a dog in our future, but like not today.
A little bit more time, a little bit more time. Let's let the cat live its best life. It's,
Yeah,
9 lives. It's towards the end of
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna let
Well,
her be as happy as she can be for as long as possible. So
that's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on here. Obviously,
Mhm.
I have both of these stunning covers for the Gossip and the Grump. I guess we can just jump right into this, obviously, because this is the newest book that you've published. I want to
Yeah.
know, beginning though, how do you pick your book covers? Because this always fascinates me, especially when people have two different color.
Mhm.
And I feel like they're similar, but they're also so different. Like,
Yeah.
what is that thought process like when you're going to pick, okay, here's my people cover, and then here's my more discreet cartoony, or how are people, do their other cover?
It's hard, but it's also, people have such strong opinions on covers. People have there are three camps. There are like very pro illustrated covers, there are very pro people covers, and there are people in the middle who are like, what's the big deal? so so when I released The Last Eligible Billionaire a year and a half ago, I guess, that's when I first decided to do two different covers. And it I had been seeing, like, when you watch TikTok, when you look at Instagram, like, people are far more likely to take pictures of their physical books in print. And so I thought, well, does this mean that print readers tend to prefer illustrated covers more? But I had only ever had people on my cover. I wasn't ready to take the full leap to being illustrated covers only. So it felt like a really good compromise between staying true to the brand that I had built and the covers that my readers were used to, while also giving new readers who might not have seen me before an opportunity to see a different cover that might draw them into the world. So, eh, as far as like picking what goes on it, I am not a graphically inclined person, so it's one of the hardest parts of the whole process is creating the covers. And I've got an amazing cover artist. I work with Najla Comber, of Comber Designs, and she just does a fabulous job every single time. And I've worked with Lori Jackson in the past, and she also just does a fabulous job every single time. And I let them do what they do, and I trust that they know what they're doing because I don't have a good eye for graphics generally. So I really appreciate working with people who do.
When you go to send them something, do you like to say, I want, like, do you send them certain scenes that you're imagining, or like certain, aspects? You're like, hey, this is what this character embodies, here's X, Y, and Z, or is it just kind of like, here's the overarching title, the tropes, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Wow, type of scenario.
it it depends on the book. Sometimes I'll be like with The Gossip and the Grump. I was like, I want the dog on the cover. I want the dog on the illustrated cover because it's Jitter. We've got to have Jitter on the cover of this book. Like, there was no doubt, there was no question. When I did The Worst Wedding Date, the first book in the series, if you've read that one, you know that Theo, the hero, has a side hustle, basically like a fictional OnlyFans site, right? And so I was like, I very much want him to be dropping his bow tie on the illustrated cover. I want him to be stripping on the cover. Um,
I never put
when
that together. I don't know how.
it's so subtle that I had the cover done like 6 to 9 months before the book was published. And so when the book was published, I was like, why is he dropping his bow tie?
I literally like I didn't even put that together until just
Yeah.
I'm like that makes
And
so
the suit cover, he's sitting there, his bow tie is hanging down. His shirt is unbuttoned and his bow tie is hanging off. So I did that so intentionally. And then I completely forgot why I did it by the time the book came out.
I love
So
that.
I forget. I am just a mess when it comes to covers.
I
So
love that though. I love that you have the intention, especially like I said, when it's a book that you're like, okay, with this one, the dog has to be on it, or that one. That's so clever too. Again,
yeah,
I didn't even put two and two together with that,
I
but
didn't either.
now that you've explained it, I'm like, that makes so much sense. Like, why did I not notice that? But I think readers love little things like that too. It's like
Mhm.
kind of sprinkling in the oh my gosh, what is the word for it right now?
The Easter eggs
The
or the
Easter
little hints.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the little Easter egg that's like if you put two and two together, there
Yeah.
you go. There's
Like
your
you feel like you're in on that secret. And now I feel like I'm in on my secret because I forgot about it.
I'm in on the secret that I forgot, but I've slept since then, so now it's brand new to me again.
It's like it's almost as good as reading your favorite book for the first time all over again, right? Because you always want to read your favorite book, but like there's no experience like reading your favorite book for the first time. You're like, now I know what's coming. Now I know what's coming. But it's like the cover version of that. Oh, I get it now.
It's always fun when you go back and I feel like you read a book too and you know that it's one of your favorites. But I swear, I love the first read because the first read obviously is like it's the most genuine, it's the most
Mhm.
wholesome. And the
Yeah.
second read, you know what's coming, but the second read, especially when it's like something big happens, I feel like it's one of my favorite reads, honestly, is like going back through a book because you know what's happening. So now you're looking for stuff. So then you pick up on all the little hints that were
Yes.
dropped and you're like,
Yes. The foreshadowing, and you pick up on the other Easter eggs that are related to other things. And I dropped a few really big Easter eggs in The Gossip and the Grump for the third book in the series, and I'm not telling anybody what they are.
so we're gonna circle back here in a little bit once the third book comes out, and we're gonna be like, I remember what you did
Yeah.
there.
And I'm gonna be like, oh, I did that? I forgot.
I love that. I love that so much. So kind of talking about this series, basically, I mean, starting off, what I know you've written quite a few books. Kind of what is that inspiration for you when you're like, okay, I'm gonna start a brand new series? Where does that come from? Do you feel like your inspiration comes from maybe people in your lives, or is it all just fictionalized and you're like, you know what, I just had this idea and now I'm gonna write a 3, 4, 5, however many book series?
Yeah. It oh, I am a mood writer. And I like not on a daily basis, but just in a like sometimes I'll be inspired by watching a TV show. I grew up loving baseball, and I was a Chicago Cubs fan, right? And so I have a series of books about a baseball team that is like the worst baseball team in the whole entire league, and I take them from zeros to heroes throughout the series, and that is something I always wanted to do. But the fourth hero in that book gave me just so much trouble until I started daydreaming, and it was I feel like a dork saying this exact moment. But like when the fourth book in the series came around, it was a super fan anticipated hero, and it took me like 2 years to figure out his story. And when it all clicked, it clicked, and I was like, oh my gosh, his story is what would happen if like Bryce Harper from the Phillies was not married and in an alternate universe fell in love with Taylor Swift, whom he had a fling with 10 years ago. Um, so like it comes from there. Sometimes I'll be watching a TV show and a character will walk onto the screen, and I will be like, oh, that. I mean, Theo in The Worst Wedding Date was inspired by a TikTok that I saw. And Theo is nothing like the TikTok guy that I saw in his TikTok. They're very different characters, but the inspiration came from there. When it came time to start doing the three BFFs and a wedding series that The Gossip and the Grump and The Worst Wedding Date are part of, I pulled out a list of tropes and I was like, what haven't I done in a while? What interests me? Where am I at? Because I hadn't had that like pull. And about the time I was doing that is when I went on TikTok and saw the guy, and I was like, oh, this would be fun. This would be fun in a wedding situation. How do we do this, and how do we make it? How do we make it a couple books, but not too many books? So I actually I struggle with staying in the same world for more than about 3 books at a time. So I'll write 3 books in the same world, and then I need something different. So trilogies are about perfect for me. Trilogies are standalones. So
Do you feel
that's
like once you get towards the end of that trilogy, because I know, I've talked to a few different authors and they say the further they get into the book, the more it feels like their family. And so the characters just get easier to write and you like kind of know how they're gonna go and everything. Do you feel like once you get to that third book that you're in that space now that you're like, these characters, you know this world and you're ready to leave it? Or
somewhat sometimes, yeah. I like new shiny. so so after about 3 books in a series, like I just need something fresh. But they're very like the third book in the series was probably the easiest one for me to write.
Mhm.
And it helped that my husband took the internet away from me. And I say that like not like he's controlling, but like he said, "Hey, do you know that I can block your computer from the internet through our router with this little app on my phone, and you will have no control over it?" And I was like, "I think I need you to do that, please." So, so that helped. But it was also I knew the characters very well by the time I sat down to write the book, so that helped. But yeah, it is. It's sort of like this has been a lot of fun. And will I go back to that world at some point? I think I probably will. But I'm going to take a break in the meantime and go back to a different world that I haven't visited in a while. And I think my readers are going to like that too. So
That's exciting. I love that you're able to, you know yourself enough to be like, if I get past this point, I'm gonna burn myself out. And then it's hard when you said like you're before that other series, you were burnt out. It felt like it took you so long. And
hmm
kind of understand that process now for yourself.
yeah,
When it comes to actually writing a book, I know you said, the third book in this series, you feel like came easiest to you. Do you write better when you're at home, or like you said, you like to be inspired by like things you see on TikTok or other places?
yeah.
Do you feel like you're inspired? You like write better when you're at like a coffee shop or the airport or something like that?
I like pre 2020 Starbucks was my place. I would get up in the morning and I would be there when they opened at 5:45, and I would sit down and I would get my chai latte and I would write for 2 hours and I would go home and I would have all my words done for the day, and I was just very very happy. There's something about the ambient noise in a coffee shop that just makes me happy. And since then I have not gotten back into that, and we've moved. There is not a Starbucks 5 minutes from me anymore. So that doesn't make it easy, but I have a treadmill desk actually with a sit stand desk. So I work really well when I'm walking. And I walk slow. Like, don't think I'm out here like training for a marathon while I'm writing a book or anything. That's not me. I'm like 1.5 miles an hour, baby. But it's just enough to keep my brain engaged and going. And so I tend to write at home most often, but I do like changes in scenery. So I am known to like I'll go to a coffee shop. Sometimes I'll go to an Airbnb for a while if I just need to get away and have a change in scenery. I actually just went on a writing retreat with my editor and got back late last week. She's a digital nomad, which I think is so cool. She has a dog and it's just her and her dog. And so she can go anywhere. And she's decided to spend 5 weeks in Europe hosting writing retreats. And so I was able to go to the first week and have a week of just writing with her and have a lot of fun. So
That's so cool. I love people can do that. I have a family friend who is not in the writing business, but has one of those jobs that
mhm.
is all remote. And so
Yeah,
it's her and her dog, but she goes and she rents Airbnbs by a month. And so she's gone, like she's lived by the Grand Canyon for a month. And then she went and she was in Vegas for a month. And then she was up in like Washington when it was
yeah.
snowing. And like she's always traveling. She's been to New York. And I was like, that's a pretty cool job.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's not a lifestyle that I could have work for me. Like I have kids and a husband. Um but like watching her do this has just been so cool. It's been so fun.
That's definitely could be inspiration for maybe a book if someone has that cool travel lifestyle. Going out of your books for a second, because I like to, obviously these are Meet the Author interviews, so I want people to get to
Yeah.
know you too. Kind of talk about yourself a little bit. You are a mother, you have your husband, kind of what led you to this point in your life that you decided to start writing, and how has your career been since then?
Oh, I wanted to be a writer when I was 8, but my family thought that was hilarious, and I thought that that meant that I wasn't any good. And so I shoved all my dreams aside and I got an engineering degree. So I graduated college some time ago with an engineering degree, and then I married a military man. And so we started moving. And as we were moving, it was harder and harder for me to find jobs in professional engineering because I just couldn't when you have very limited experience and you're competing against new graduates who have basically the same level of experience and they know you're going to move soon, it was just difficult. And so I turned to writing as self-therapy. Probably, no, it was 21 years ago. 21 years ago, I started writing again as self-therapy. And that was about the same time that I discovered romance novels. I came to the genre late. And when I told my husband that I had been secretly writing a book myself, he was like, "Well, that's great. How do we get it published?" And just that boost, like that little bit of support, you know? I'm a dinosaur. I predate the Kindle. Trying to get published since the Kindle was before the Kindle was a thing. But I joined Romance Writers of America and I just started studying craft and reading books. And then kids came along and things slowed down. And in 2012, I was shopping a book of my heart. And I started getting rejections that said, "This is amazing. I love it. This is fantastic. But I can't take it on because it's not like the next 50 Shades of Grey." Because I write light, quirky, no one is going to mistake me for E.L. James ever. Ever. So the timing was just wrong. But because I'd gotten that validation that my books were good enough, that there was interest from agents, and they just didn't think they could sell it to editors, I said, "You know what? This is my time. I believe in myself. I can invest in myself. I'm going to self-publish." And so I self-published my first book 10 years ago this August, under my first pen name. And then we moved like 2 or 3 times and I just got a little burnt out. Okay, I got a lot burnt out. I got a lot burnt out managing the kids and the moves and the indie author business. I almost walked away from writing in 2017. But then I started sampling the books that were at the top of the charts. My editor, who has been my friend since like 2014, started sampling the books at the top of the charts with me. I read a book called Right to Market. I wish I could remember who wrote it right now, and that is escaping me. I'll remember later and I'll just like blurt out the name and he'll be like, "What?" But that's when I discovered that the thing that was missing in my books was tropes. And I was looking at what was trending high in the charts, and it was definitely steamier than what I wrote. But I was like, "Do you know what? My books have been nominated for awards. I can do this." And so I was in the shower one day and I was thinking about it in the back of my head, and I leapt out of the shower and I was like, "I've got it. I've got an idea for a book." And it was the first time that I had wanted to write in months. And I ran through my house with just a towel wrapped around me and I scared my children, and my husband had to assure them that mommy was okay. And I pounded out a blurb and I sent it to my editor and I was like, "If that's what they want on the charts, this is what I'm going to write." And she said, "Great, write it." And 3 weeks later, I had a 45,000 word manuscript that I sent her, and she was like, "You need to publish this." And I said, "I cannot publish this because my husband's office knows my pen name." And she said, "Great, take a new pen name." So Pippa Grant was born. And what is this, 6 years later? Oh my gosh, it's 6 years at the end of this month, since my first Pippa Grant novel was published. So that's my long-winded story.
I love that. And that's so funny that you changed it because your husband, like, you were like,
I know.
people that know me this way and I can't be known now.
Yes. It was so funny because when I was writing that book, I completely unplugged. I was like, "I'm writing this book like nobody is ever going to read it. So I don't care like how sexy the sex scenes are. I don't care how many times I use the F word. I don't care how many times I don't care how insulting they are to each other," which I'm like, "Oh, but that was a good burn, you know?" Like nobody's going to read this. And my editor was like, "Publish it." And I was like, "I'm going to be a one and done under this pen name. We're all good here."
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, there was an elevator scene that there was no way I wanted my husband's office talking about at the water cooler.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And I have to ask because what engineering degree did you get? My fiance is a mechanical engineer, so
Oh, cool.
I know a little bit about that world. So
Yeah.
it's my
Well,
interest.
my husband's an aerospace engineer, which is like a more specialized mechanical engineer, and I had a computer engineering degree.
That's awesome. Yeah, he wanted to be in aerospace stuff, but he ended up now he's in HVAC, and so he really likes it. But when he first went to
Good.
college, he wanted to do like the mechanical and then like specialize in aerospace. And life changed, COVID happened, so he didn't do that. But that's so cool. Aerospace engineering is way hard. So like, your husband, I'm sure, is smart.
He
an engineering degree, so you were also crazy smart.
I don't think engineering was supposed to be my path. Like I made it through engineering school, but I think that I made the right. I think the universe, like putting a military man to push me away from engineering. I think I think I'm where I'm supposed to be now.
I think that you look very happy, in life, and it sounds like, again, the books, I think they're great and they do really well. We'll go back, a little bit more to the books with this most recent one, The Gossip and the Grump. Again, I have both of them right here. Was this one, I know you said the third book was probably the easiest one to write. Was this one hard to write, easier than the first book? Kind of walk me through when you sat down to write this specific book, how that went for you.
So, caveat. As I was writing this book, I was being diagnosed with breast cancer. Sorry, dark. I'm totally fine. It was stage 0 precancer. They got it all in a biopsy. I had to do radiation treatments, and I'm on I'm on hormonal treatments for the next 5 years as prevention to make sure it doesn't come back. But like, there was a lot of really, really heavy stuff in my life as I was writing this book. Like, you'll see the dedication is to Schrodinger's boob, because we knew there was something, but we didn't know what for the entire process, basically, of the time that I was writing the book. So that made writing the book itself hard. But from the standpoint of what went in the book, I fell down the rabbit hole thanks to one of my assistants of listening to the podcast Normal Gossip. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
This is
That's right up my alley, though.
This is my dirty pleasure, my secret dirty pleasure, right? Like, forget the cookies, give me the Normal Gossip. But that podcast completely changed my own relationship with gossip, because I grew up under that, like, you don't talk about people, you don't say bad things about people. And clearly, I'm not going to go out in the world and be like, you want to hear a bad story about somebody? But it's more the idea that, like, we gossip to keep ourselves safe. And especially as women, right? Like, I'm going to tell you something if I'm like, I think you need to know to avoid this. Or I'm going to tell you something if I'm like, this is utterly hilarious. You are never going to believe what happened. Like, I love it from a storytelling perspective, and I love it from a community building perspective. And I love it the way Sabrina uses it in The Gossip and the Grump. And so I was super inspired by the podcast to embrace the idea that gossip is not bad. And so that's part of why Sabrina is the gossip and The Gossip and the Grump. And as far as Gray goes, I just love a good grumpy hero.
Grumpy sunshine kind of situations, or just grumpy
Yeah.
in general, I think are some of the best,
Yeah.
especially when you bring this female into their lives and they're just like, I don't know what to do with you.
Right? Yeah, this series has been a lot about trying trope combinations that I haven't tried before. Like Theo's side hustle and The Worst Wedding Date was something that I had never thought about doing before. The one night stand when I found out the next day that he's my boss, like that's not a trope I had ever tackled before. Emma's book has a trope that I've never tackled before. So it's been all like exciting to really dig in to new stuff. And so it was just about trying new things.
I love
And fun.
I think that's awesome, and I think it's fun, when you're able to do all of those different things. And I think readers probably feel that too. When they're seeing, like, okay, like, this is different, but I like it. Like, I can feel that you changed it up a little bit. I think that's fun too, especially when you're blessed to have such an amazing career. That you get to keep publishing books and people keep reading books. That it's always fun for you too to like experiment with something different and then see how readers respond to that.
Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the thing that I've learned over my career is that no book is the end all be all of a career. There will always be the next book. I don't know if you've ever asked a writer, like, do you ever think about retiring? And I'm like, even if I retired, it would just be from the fast grind of publishing. It would not be from writing. I'm not sure I could ever step away from writing. It's just part of who I am and what I do not every day. I'm not an everyday writer, but it's like, I can't see myself going 6 months without writing a book or part of a book. So.
No, I feel like, again, that's for writers. I give you all the credit. Maybe when I'm like in my 30s or something, I would try to give writing a try, because I feel like I can kind of come up with things, but then like putting pen to paper, writing, typing, whatever, I don't think I have the capabilities for that. So I always, anytime an author's like, I wrote 7 books this year, I'm like, are you a robot?
You could try dictating and see if that just works differently in your brain if you wanted to. But otherwise, like, practicing is all you can do. And if it works, it works. And there's no loss if it doesn't,
I beta read for a friend, and I've learned that I like to, which this may sound really bad, and she would not actually like take this to heart, but I know that I like to, when people give me their stories, I like to read it and then I like to change it. Like, I like to be like, I hate that. This would be better. And
Mhm.
then, like, that's fun to me, or, like, finding little
Yeah.
mistakes, even if it's, like, a small spelling mistake, I'm like, "Aha, success." Like,
Yeah, like editorial side of things for sure.
that's
Yeah.
fun for me because it's like I didn't have to brain power, like, all of the different things, interactions, but then I can
Mhm.
be there as a reader, and I'm like, "This doesn't flow right," and I feel like it maybe is a little different because as an author, you're writing a whole book, so sometimes you don't, like, realize that, but when you're reading something, you're like, what was happening the day that you wrote?"
Yeah, it's like it takes you days, right? Days, months, weeks to write a book. You can read it in a day, and like you see it all at the same time. But like editorial is so important, and spotting those errors is not a talent that everybody has. And so the ability that you have to do that is really amazing. That's fantastic.
I think it's fun. And again, it's like my personal goal. I'm like, don't hate me. I'm gonna circle and send you back all these things, but it's because it's fun. I
It's
send
like when you find the thing that's fun, just cling to it, run with it. That's what it's all about.
maybe that's what I'll do one day if I ever get out of the career that I'm in. Is I'm just gonna go edit books and do things
Yeah.
like that. But no, that's so awesome. So I have to ask because you said you don't write every day. What is your typical day in the life of an author like for you? Your
I am
day that you're writing. What is
a
the day
day that I'm writing.
that you're
Yeah.
writing?
I'm a morning writer. I'm a roll out of bed, don't look at anything except for my manuscript if I want to get good words written sort of person. So we have a block set up on my computer so I can't see the internet until after my like prime working hours are over. My husband is retired now, so he is in charge of making sure that the children get where they need to go in the mornings. So it's literally I roll out of bed, I make myself tea, I take my vitamins, I sit down and I work. I don't sit down actually. I stand up, I put on brain music.
Daniel,
I yeah, I turn on my treadmill desk. And like this is like prime um pattern habit of what I do. I turn on my brain music, which is my substitute for the coffee shop music now. I start walking and I just go. And on a really good day, I can get 3 to 5,000 words in. On a poor day, I'll get 1,000 to 1,500 words in. And if I have many poor days in a row, I'll be like, there is something wrong with the story. I need to go back to the beginning, figure out what it was, and then I can correct course and we'll move forward. So that that's pretty much my workday as far as the writing goes. And once I'm on the internet, it's like all of the administrative stuff. Or like today, I need to sign books and put them in the mail as prizes for all the giveaways that we did for the Gossip and the Grump. So there's always like something. It's not like I'm just free for the rest of the day after 9 o'clock in the morning.
no, I don't. Again, I even just the thought of like signing books, I'll see like authors like post their TikTok sometimes, and they like walking into like a Barnes and Noble or like just at their house, and it's like I have to sign all of these books in the next 4 hours. I'm like, does your hand hurt? Are you okay? Like,
I tend to just do a few at a time, and we get through the pile that way.
yeah, I know there's some people now that they just like stamp their signature, and I'm like, honestly, I don't even blame you.
It's relatable. Yeah. Yeah. You can even, and I've never done this, but you can even have a printed signature uploaded with your hardback or your paperback book files to print distributors because they take a PDF. And I'm like, I haven't done that. I don't know if I could.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I think I have
Yeah.
one book that I think I'm trying to remember who the author is, but I have one of their books that it was like their most recent one. They just like went ahead and signed. I think it was like all the Barnes and Noble like editions, like
Yeah.
front page. This was like a printed signature, but I was still
Was
like,
that Lucy? Was that Lucy Score?
Lucy does have one, yes. So
Yeah.
that's another good example. That was not the one
Yeah.
I was thinking of, but she's
Yeah.
the one that did
No,
that.
I did see that, and it's like I don't know if I could do it, but then I saw Lucy's publisher did it for it, and I was like, "That's really cool." And I was like, "Wait, there's a disconnect going on in my brain here."
As a reader, I was like, I know she didn't actually sign this specific
Yeah,
book, but it says it's a signature and I want it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was enough for me in my head. I was like, you know what? I have it on my Kindle, but now I have to have it physically too because it's signed. That's just how my brain goes. It's like I can have
Yeah.
3 copies of the same book because something slightly was tweaked, and I'm like, all right, well, I need another physical copy of it now. It's brain does some crazy, crazy things. Real quick before we get to the end here,
Mhm.
for this series specifically, if you had to describe both the Gossip and the Grump and then the Worst Wedding Date, if you had to give people, a quick summary or your favorite scene or something to have them want to pick it up, how would you either describe them or something that would be like, all right, this is your sign that you need to go pick up these two books?
Oh,
I know that's a hard question.
that's, that's okay. For the worst wedding date, I would say you have to read it for the sneezes because nobody ever reads book. My editor tells me I'm terrible at selling my own books. She'd be like, Pippa Grant, no one wants to read a romance novel about sneezes. And I'd be like, do you trust the Pippa Grant or do you not? But there's also a very uh, the worst wedding date is an only one bed book. And the first morning they wake up together, I wanted to do something epic. And I asked my husband's advice. And he said 4 words. And it reminded me of something that happened to him when we were dating. And I laughed so hard. And then I wrote that scene. And I believe it is chapter 6. It's been a few months since people have been talking about it, but my entire social media feed was, oh my God, chapter 6. So
So read it for chapter 6, and then also so you can have that connect that I didn't have with the
yeah,
cover and realize that that's why his tie is coming off.
right. Yeah, like for real, I forgot too. I didn't get it either. So, for the Gossip and the Grump, I think the powdered cheese scene is my favorite.
There's so many good things in that book.
But see again, like the Gossip and the Grump is harder for me to talk about because there was so much going on personally that
Mhm.
I was worried about how the book would be received. I was worried that it was not my best work, and the response that I have gotten has been so gratifying to me to know that I can go through really hard times personally and still show up professionally for my readers. So what I remember about the Gossip and the Grump is that I did it. I finished it. I got through, and we made it. And I do love the book. I do, and I love the book even more after seeing readers' reactions to it. Like sometimes that's legitimately what makes a book come alive to me is seeing readers read it and hearing their reactions to it and watching them discover a new character or discover or like just fall in love with Jitter or be like, I want a Saint Bernard of my own now. It just that makes it so much more real to me than when it's just a file on my computer that I send to various people on my team, and like I can hold the book, but until somebody else reads it, it just doesn't feel like it's alive, if that makes sense.
I think you should feel so accomplished with again the fact that you went through something that's incredibly hard and incredibly, scary and life changing. And obviously, things are not, it wasn't as bad as it has been for other
Yeah,
people situations and so.
absolutely. Oh yeah, my heart goes out to people who have had it so much worse. Early detection made a massive difference. So get your mammograms, get your mammograms. And I know that doesn't always solve everything for everybody, but yeah, for sure.
But it's still, scary and something that was life changing and, getting that
Hmm.
news is, hard and everything. So the fact that you were able to still show up again, like you said, for your book, and it's an incredible book. I
Thank
think
you.
that's, incredible and a testament to you as an author and as a professional. And you should be very proud and pleased with yourself that you were able to do all of that. Because I think as a reader, just knowing that that's what you were going through and then still being able, to see your work in this book, I think that's incredible.
I've always said that I write to give people joy because the world is hard. We know the world is hard, right? The world can be an ugly place. And there, I am not a fighter, but what I am is somebody who is a supporter. And if I can put things out into the world that help make somebody else's journey through their struggles easier, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's always been my mission and my purpose. It's just to write books that bring a little bit of lightness into somebody else's life. So I hope that my book does for other people what I love when books did for me. And my favorite movies and TV shows this past year. So
That's awesome. That's so sweet. Well, as we're wrapping this up, do you have anything else that you would want to say to any of your readers or anything else that maybe I didn't ask you that you want to touch on for real quick?
Um, I'm working on a book that's coming after Emma's book that is set in my Copper Valley world, and it's brand new characters that nobody has met before. But
Ooh,
April's gonna be fun.
I love when you get a good
so
teaser like that.
so we're gonna wrap up the trilogy with Emma's book, and I'm tight-lipped on that one. I'm not going to talk about that one, but I'll tell you that the book that comes after is also just it has been. I've laughed so hard that my husband has stood outside my office and recorded me and sent it to my assistants. When I was with my editor on our writing retreat, I looked up and she was filming me because I was doing it again. So there's still so much fun coming in next year.
So excited for, you know, how the series is going to wrap up and then future series and just you continuing to do great things. And again, I just so thank you that you came on here today and talked with me.
Oh,
So much fun talking with you.
thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Yes, and you guys make sure that you are saying subscribed here on my YouTube, or if you're following this on my podcast, that you're saying subscribe to the podcast and everything else that's happening with Michaela's book nook that you're saying subscribed. And until next time, thanks guys.